I went to a preventative medicine clinic, what, three years ago, something like that, 4 years ago, maybe now, and did a whole body scan and a bunch of other tests and found out
just because though you weren't looking for anything.
No symptoms, found out I had cancer in my lower left lung lobe.
Bringing you a reasoned approach to health and fitness. This is the Phi Life Podcast.
Welcome to the Phi Life Podcast. I'm John Barban. With me is Brad Pilon. And I want to talk about the idea of preventative medicine and early screening and how our thoughts about it is. I had an incident where it revealed that we don't quite think about it the right way yet.
Okay.
And so if anybody who's been watching us for any length of time knows that I went to a preventative medicine clinic, what, three years ago, something like that, 4 years ago, maybe now, and did a whole body scan and a bunch of other tests and found out
just because though you weren't looking for anything.
No symptoms, found out I had cancer in my lower left lung lobe.
Yeah.
And so we proceeded to have a lobectomy. So the lower left lung lobe was removed, which effectively removed all the cancer. So never had any respiratory symptoms or anything like that. And the surgery was when you catch it early, that's the recommended preferred first line treatment. That's
just
the treatment.
Cut the whole thing out. Just get it gone.
And there's certain, you can get even more precise depending where the tumor is. You don't even need to take the whole lobe. You can do like a slice out of it, almost like the way the physician explained it to me when we were discussing like what we were going to do. It's like imagine an orange, imagine just taking one of the pieces of the orange out. What do you call it?
Right.
One slice, right. If the tumor's definably in a spot where you can do that, you can resect a slice of the lung. My particular tumor was right at the, it was in the main bronchial passage that feeds the entire lower lobe. So it was like at the entrance to the entire lung. So there was no, this other taking a slice only works when it's way down somewhere on the peripheral. Mine was at the very top. So the whole lobe had to go. And we were very close to taking the whole left lung, but we got it. We got all the cancer out. It's been 3 years now. And all my follow-up screens, there's nothing, we're good. There's nothing there. Never had a chance to spread. All the lymph nodes were clear. And so, but what brings up this topic today was, a friend of the family was just talking to Dina and said, "Oh, how's John doing?" He's like, "Oh, good." And then they were like, "Really? He never had to do chemo. He never did none of that stuff, right?" And she's like, "No, the surgery just got it." And to me, that just revealed that we just think when you hear the word cancer, it has to be all of that stuff. It's got to be a miserable thing. It's going to be chemo. It's going to be radiation. Who knows what it's going to be like on the other side of it? And depending on what type of cancer it is, how aggressive it is, and what stage you found it, that could be true. You could be in big trouble and you could need all of that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Or if you catch it early enough and it's maybe not a fast growing cancer and it's definable, it's a mass, that's it. It can just be surgery and you're done, like in my case.
Right.
But and in my case, the whole point of pre-screening and doing things early is to catch it this early and is to have the treatment be this cut and dried and clean, pun intended. And that's it. It's done and it's over with.
And for people who don't get it, the reason you're so animated about this is that we do have friends who are medical doctors who are against preventative screening, as in it's too much, it's unnecessary testing. It's the public doesn't need to know. We're the gatekeepers. We'll tell you when to get tested, and that's something that you don't particularly like. So the suggestion, like, take this in your own hands and go get the screening, which is your advice, is something that a fair amount, I don't know if it's more, a few or whatever, but a fair amount of medical professionals don't agree with.
Right. And they just pick and choose which organ system is worth pre-screening. So they say get a colonoscopy done at 50. Now it's maybe 45 years old. Right. So I just had that.
Lung cancer is way more common.
But lung cancer is more common, kills more people.
Yeah.
But it's standard to do a colonoscopy, and not because you have any symptoms. It's just you're this age, go in and look.
Right.
But you don't do that with lung. But you do it with breast cancer. But then you also do it with you always get your PSA tested for prostate cancer, but not lung, even though lung's right up there in the top 3 as far as fatality. Yeah. So So in my case, I just added a couple extra things in on my own dime. But then I also did a colonoscopy, and they found 2 or 3 polyps that they got rid of. And that's part of it. When they're in there, if they find any of them, they just get rid of them. And part of it is, I guess in all cases, polyps eventually become cancer. It could take 15 years.
I did not know that.
It could take a long, long time. Like we're talking decades. But that's the whole point of you go in early. You catch them when they're small and they're not malignant. The point is they mutate over time.
Right. Okay.
And particular kinds of polyps, by definition, 100% eventually become cancer, but it just takes a long, long time. But that's why we tell people to go at 45, 50 years old.
Right.
So all I did was add lung screening to that.
Yep.
And for some reason, the medical establishment's like, well, you don't have to do that one, but you have to do the colonoscopy one, which I think is just completely stupid. So
up here, some of them are covered. I go to a skin cancer clinic up in Guelph, Ontario once a year because I'm covered in moles and we've got a family history of skin cancer. So once a year I go up and it's like 150 Canadian, right? So like, I don't know, 70, 80 bucks American. And they have a fancy camera. They take pictures of you and it takes that picture, compares to the last picture, compares the shape of the moles, etc. And when we tell people, you get 1 or 2 responses. People are like, oh my God, I want the number of that place. Or why would you pay $150 to have that done? Right. And I'm like, because I'd rather find out really early. Yeah.
Think of the things people will waste $150 on, but pre-screening for cancer, they won't do it. Yeah, I do that too. Once a year, we do a once over. If she doesn't like the way a particular mole or mass looks, she'll biopsy it.
Yep.
Yeah. She didn't like the bridge of my nose gets burnt pretty easily. And she didn't like the tissue here. And so she did the whole nitrogen burn
you
it
got
off.
fried one year. I don't remember that.
And so she's just like, be super careful with it. Like really overdo it with just this exact spot. Cause that just keeps getting like, she's like, she called it like pre-cancerous. She's like, just be very careful with that.
There's
spot.
a name for that, but another one. Yeah.
But
and
again,
the thing I like thinking about is that if I go annually, it means if anything they find they don't like, at the very worst, it's been getting bad for a year. Because right? So I don't understand. I guess the concept is I'd rather not know. That's, and then from a medical perspective, it's we'll tell you when to be concerned. And those are the 2 things you have going against you.
The I'd rather not know thing is shocking to me. Dina works at a high risk pregnancy department in the hospital, and some of her coworkers, all nurses, when they found out I discovered I had cancer from just a pre-screen with no, a random screening with no symptoms. They're like, oh, I would never do that. I wouldn't want to know. And she's like, wait a minute. You like work in the medical profession in a high risk department where people show up with abnormal, like the high risk pregnancy department. So most pregnancies go off without a hitch. They only see the ones where they're the 1 in 1,000 or 1 in they see the weird ones. You'd think that group of people, knowing that, hey, weird things can just happen, you'd think they would want to go do the pre-screen and be like, oh, really? He's just found cancer, no symptoms? Yeah. Oh, maybe I should go do that. No, there's like, I wouldn't want to do that. So it's this like, if I don't know about it, it's not there. But that just
easier things too.
Way worse when you do find it.
Yeah. And if you don't find anything, the cool thing is now you have a baseline. So it's all the way back to you and I talking about blood work would be like if you're actually guy or girl, doesn't matter. If you're in your sort of mid-20s, now's the perfect time to know what your numbers are at sort of your peak, which is mid-20s, right? And then now you have something to compare to 20 years down the road when you're 45, you're feeling sluggish and tired. You go and get your testosterone checked and you have numbers and you have no idea how they compare to what they used to be. Or you get your insulin checked, or my white blood cells are always low. I've always, right? But they've always been low since I think 22 years old. So it's not a concern.
Just who you are. Yeah, it's not a concern. Yeah.
Right. But so I think it's important to have, even if you don't have that info, it's cool that you can provide your healthcare professional with that info and be like,
the more they know, the better. Especially, like you said, a baseline over time. Just because there are charts that show what average is, well, most people's white blood cells are here. Most people's testosterone's here. Most people's estrogen. That doesn't mean yours is. And it doesn't mean yours has to be, because those are just averages. Nobody just sits right on the average. People It's a curve. Some people are on one end of the curve. Some people are on the other. But for you, if that's just your number, that's just your number and you're fine. There's nothing wrong.
It also prevents you from sort of false positives. So if a workout can massively increase your creatinine levels, right?
Mhm.
I had a good friend who went and got to his annual checkup, and his blood pressure was crazy high. Like alarmingly high. He's like, yeah, I just went right from the gym to my appointment, and they freaked out. I'm like, what did you do at the gym? He's like, oh, I hate workout. I'm like, well, don't do that. Maybe don't do that, right? So, but then if you had multiple tests, you would know that one's the anomaly, right? Because the only test you had to go on, that's concerning.
Right.
So it is preventative screening just kind of makes logical sense, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be part of the future one way or another. Unfortunately, you might get some resistance from your primary care physician, or just the standard medical industry is not necessarily on board with it just yet. And which also means you're going to have to go out of pocket for preventative.
Especially if you're up north with me.
Yeah. And even when you do go get a preventative screen just ahead of time, your physician might be, well, what'd you do this for? And it just expect, if you do it, just expect you're going to get a little bit of like, they're going to look at you a little bit odd. What'd you do that for? And what am I supposed to do with this information? But if my example is instructive for you, I had cancer and I didn't know, I had no symptoms and I caught it way early. It was easy to get rid. Well, easy. I mean, it was a serious surgery, but it didn't spread. We're good. It's out. We're good. So that's kind of how you want it to go. You don't want it to be, I mean, first of all, you don't want cancer in the first place, but if you get it, it always, the sooner you find it, the better. Always.
And I like
such
working
thing as finding it later, and that's better.
The odds and probabilities for people. So I think the majority of us have went probably to an average sized high school. So between 1,000 and 2,000 people, right? Everyone generally remembers their high school. So if the chances of you finding something are 1 in 1,000, that means that if your entire high school went back in the day, anywhere from 1 to 5 of you, depending on the size of your school, would have been a positive. So just to give you an idea, even though it's a 1 in 1,000 shot, that means that a couple people in your school would have found something to give, right? And then so when you bring that out to a much larger population, it becomes important to test, right? In a group of 10,000 people, even if it's a 1,000 chance you're going to find something, 10 of you are going to be like, oh crap, I found something super important to save my life, right? So in
college, in first year, there was because me and Brad grew up in the same city. We didn't know each other in high school. We met in college. A girl went to, I actually think she went to your school. And by second year, university, the summer between first year and second year, she got leukemia and died.
Yeah.
So 21 years old. So that's the 1 in 1,000 at your school. And then, now that's really early. It's super unfortunate. And that's really early. And then to further that point, a guy that a buddy of mine that I went to high school with, when he was 47, just died of cancer. And that's the one at our school. And I'm sure there's others. That's just the one I knew about. But the point is when we were, and I think I talked about this on the show before, but when we were, like the last time I had a beer with them, I had no idea, like, oh, it's the last time. And like,
that is weird.
It's a weird thing. And obviously no one knows how much time they have, but 47, I think most people say, oh, that's kind of young. Or 21, that's way too young, right? All of that's too young. No, everyone thinks something 90-ish. We're going to all get there.
Yeah.
But it's just weird to think of all my friends from high school, like, oh, like the last time I saw him or last time I had a beer with him at 25 or something, his life was already half over. He didn't know that. I didn't know that. It was already half over.
Yeah.
And the girl that we knew in university, her life was 99% over the last time we saw her.
And I don't know, I'm not really well versed in leukemia, but some of the other ones, an early detection would have helped, right? So
I think it always would have helped.
Oh, I guess, that's a good point. Yeah.
Always would have helped. I mean, I obviously if it's bad enough, or what kind you have and how quickly it's spreading, I can't imagine, unless there's a physician listening that can tell us otherwise, I can't imagine there's such a thing as finding a cancer later is better. I don't think that's even a thing.
I'll take this even way less dramatic cancer. But when it comes to like nagging injuries from the gym, the people who you're like this, it's been 3 days. That's training my rule, 3 days. This is not getting better. I'm going to get looked at and treated by physio. Mm-hmm. They're normally better off than the people who just push through for years on end and be like, oh yeah, it's complete. I need a new shoulder now. Like there seems to be a benefit to early detection, early treatment for just about everything. It's not just like something as dramatic and life-changing as cancer, but you tweak your knee or your hip working out instead of just pushing through it. It just makes sense to get it looked at.
Yeah,
right?
and
Like
that's again, this might fall on deaf ears for the younger generation. If you put your shoulder out as a kid, you can kind of fight through it pretty quickly in your teens and 20s, and then you're in big trouble later in life if you didn't deal with it then. And so I think it's a little bit masked by how easy you heal.
Yeah,
So
they
like
seem to be way smarter in our generation now. They go for physio and stuff like that.
I hope so. I mean,
Yeah.
we were watching the NCAA tournament the other day, and one of the players twisted his ankle, and he was right back out on the court. And like 10 minutes
it's a
later,
shot. They just basically cortisol shot and numbing. And
the last time I rolled an ankle, it took me 9 months to recover. 9 months.
It hurts so much.
And this guy was back in 10 minutes. But that's like how much. I mean, obviously they have treatment. They're D1 athletes. They've got the best.
But within a couple minutes, that's just
they heal
cortisol
so quick.
shot.
They heal so quick. So it could lull you into thinking that's not a problem. Yeah. But to Brad's point, if it's been 3 or 4 days and it's worth going to get checked out, and you might find out, oh, there's specific rehab I need to do and we're okay, or there might be actual damage that might need a quick repair now versus a brutal repair later.
Yeah, so I'm like held together by Scotch tape and paper mache. So yeah, my general rule of thumb is it doesn't have to be better in 3 days, but if it's not starting to feel like it's progressing in 3 days, I go get it checked out. So even if it went from a 90 out of 100, like, oh, I really messed it up, down to a 70 or 60, I might leave that and see how it's going. But if it's still suffering after 3 days, I go get it looked at.
There's no virtue in just fighting through it and pushing through it. You're not like you don't want to break a joint down to the point where you're dealing with it for the rest of your life. You want to deal with it and get it rehabbed as quickly and as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So
pretty much everything.
Yeah, pretty much everything. I don't know. Do we get somewhere? Do we have to? Is this making sense?
No,
here?
I just think that's we're going to take it all the way from cancer to training and everywhere in between. It's just that the earlier you get it discovered, the better. So kind of work that into your annual plan. Is like we're all going to blow a couple $100 on something really stupid on Amazon in the next week or two. Right. So you may as well, also plan to spend some money on something preventative and just getting checked out.
Yeah, I think that's actually a good way to say it, is to think of the things you would spend money on. And if it's just a couple $100 for some kind of preventative screen, like what we do for the skin cancer thing, or and it staves off or catches way ahead of time something that could have been a huge problem, that was really, really good money spent. Yeah. So I don't know. I think we're a good place to leave it there.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
All right. So for Brad Pilon, I'm John Barban, and that's your Phi Life Podcast.